Government signs a $2.5 million contract for the Grand Savannah Water Supply Project. Dominica's Mountain Chicken Conservation Project has been heralded as unique, and the world remembers the transatlantic slave trade and victims of slavery.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of National Focus. I'm Mervin Matthew.
And I'm Jarna Hector. Stay with us for details of the headline stories and others after the break.
The Ministry of Health's monthly mass aerobics is on. Dress in your exercising gear and join the Ministry of Health and Fitness Plus on Friday, March 28 from 5 p.m. on the Bayfront for 1 hour of exercising and dancercising in the fight against chronic non-communicable diseases. Reduce obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes and cancer. Yes, make it a date and participate in the Ministry of Health mass aerobics session Friday, March 28 from 5 p.m. on the Roseau Bayfront. Remember, your health is your responsibility.
Thank you for staying with us. Over 500 families of Grand Savannah, Salisbury will soon benefit from the service of a new water supply system soon to be installed by DOWASCO. This as the government of Dominica and DOWASCO on Wednesday signed a $2.54 million contract with F&C Construction Company for the implementation of this new water system. The new system will include the construction of a 60,000 imperial gallon tank, 885 feet of road, and associated pipeworks.
It is the very first time that the people living in the Grand Savannah area in Salisbury will be served from a water system by DOWASCO. This signing signals the commencement of the project, which also forms part of the West Coast Water Project. The entire West Coast project is costing in the region of $31 million, $9 million of which is being provided by the government of Dominica for Lot 3 of that project. The Grand Savannah storage tank does form part of Lot 3 of that project. In fact, it is the first storage tank to be built with the necessary pipe works under Lot 3 of the project. The project itself in the Grand Savannah area will cost about $2.54 million, all of which is provided by the government of Dominica.
Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, told the signing ceremony that this project is part of his administration's goal to raise the living standards of Dominican citizens.
We continue our relentless march towards raising the living standards of the citizens and residents of our country. This ceremony, which signals the commencement of work on the Grand Savannah water supply system, is yet another step in our goal of improving the quality of life of Dominicans by ensuring that every community and every household has access to clean, potable, and affordable water. The availability of this essential requirement for life in the approximately 500 households that will be served by the new system will be a blessing that will change their lives for the better. No longer will they have to truck in water at prohibitive cost to meet their daily requirements. No longer will they have to dread the arrival of the dry season when the absence of rain imposed additional stress on them. No longer will they have to be worried about the risk of contracting waterborne diseases by having to tap into untreated water intended to be used for irrigation purposes.
Minister for Lands, Housing, Settlements and Water Resource Management, Honorable Reginald Austri, in endorsing the new water project, outlined the major benefits for Salisbury residents.
Several property owners who cannot build because of lack of water are now given an opportunity to construct their own homes. And you can see what will happen in terms of employment and construction when all these people, both here and overseas, would come down to build. It means that there will be more lots and more land available for sale to residents of this particular area. And of course, the labor and the employment that will be created through the construction of that project. And of course, an increase in the value of properties in that Grand Savane area.
The minister added that this new water project in Grand Savane complements other projects undertaken by the DLP government over the last 5 years to bring pipe-borne water to communities across Dominica.
Through the efforts of the government over the last 5 years, we've spent over $102 million in getting water to communities that never had water before or who had inadequate water supply. And $102 million in the last 5 years, where we've been experiencing probably the worst economic and financial crisis the world has ever seen, for any government in any part of the world to be able to invest $102 million in what one may consider to be not a profitable or viable enterprise, I consider it to be remarkable.
GIS News will bring you more on the contract signing ceremony for the new water supply system in Thursday's newscast.
On March 25 every year since 2007, the United Nations marks the International Day to honor the more than 15 million men, women, and children who suffered and died during the more than 400-year transatlantic slave trade, the largest forced migration in history. The International Day also aims to raise awareness of the dangers of racism and prejudice today. This year's theme, Victory Over Slavery, Haiti and Beyond, pays tribute to the fight against slavery in nations around the world. Haiti was the first nation to become independent as a result of the slavery struggle. In 2014, in addition to the formal annual observance of the International Day during the week of 25 March, a series of worldwide commemorative activities are planned throughout the year. Events include solemn ceremonies, a film festival, cultural events, debates, and exhibitions. United Nations officials are marking the International Day of Remembrance of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade by urging the international community to work towards a future in which no form of human slavery exists. In order to more permanently honor the victims, a memorial will be erected at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The winning design for the memorial, The Ark of Return by Rodney Leon, an American architect of Haitian descent, was selected through an international competition and announced in September 2013. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said, and I quote, "I hope the memorial will also be a source of inspiration in the continuing fight against the many forms of slavery that still exist today." End of quote. He added that the memorial will promote greater recognition of the contributions that slaves and their descendants have made in their societies.
In more news, students from 6 primary schools from across the island will on Saturday compete in the second Mademoiselle Francophonie pageant. The competitors will have the opportunity to delve deeper into the French culture and expression of the various Francophonie countries. Coordinator of the Mademoiselle Francophonie pageant, Charlene White-Christian, says the pageant's main focus is on Francophonie, what it represents, and the reason for its existence.
This year we are having our second Mademoiselle Francophonie pageant, and it is going to be held on the 29th of March at the Arawak House of Culture from 3:30 p.m. It's rather cheap, $10 and $15 for adults. We have 6 schools represented this year, and they are from the Pioneer Prep. We have a young lady who's going to represent Gabon. From the St. Martin's Primary School, we have a young lady representing Quebec. From the Grand Bay Primary School, she's representing Benin. From the W.S. Stevens Primary School, we have a young lady representing the Democratic Republic of Congo. From the convent prep, we have a young lady representing Dominica, and from the Dodan Primary School, we have a young lady representing Mali. The young ladies have been practicing and they are very enthusiastic, and we are just hoping that this year the show will be very educational as it was the last year about the various Francophone countries.
The National Commission for la Francophonie, the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development, the Alliance Française, and the Dominica Association of Foreign Language Teachers have planned a number of activities during the month of March, highlighting the French language and Francophone culture. The pageant will culminate this year's 2014 Francophonie month of activities. The first pageant, held in March 2013 to culminate the 2013 Francophonie month of activities, was won by Hannah Raful Andre of the Convent Prep.
Dominica's Mountain Chicken Conservation Project has been hailed an innovative and cutting-edge approach by the Zoological Society of London. Professor Andrew Cunningham, head of wildlife epidemiology at the Institute of Zoology in the UK, told GIS that the project is a unique one.
I just think that this is a species that Dominica should be very proud of. It's an iconic species, a frog. It's a very special frog in the way how big it is and also the way it reproduces. The parents look after their young. The female feeds the young, feeds the tadpoles with unfertile eggs, and it's an amazing thing to see. It's just a very special species. But Dominica should also be very proud of the Mountain Chicken Conservation Project because it really is a world-leading project. And the Forestry Department are continuing to run with this project, and the Dominican government is helping to fund it, and that's a really special thing.
The Zoological Society of London and the government of Dominica have been long in partnership, united by the desire to save the mountain chicken from extinction.
The partnership between ZSL and the government of Dominica started in 2003 when mountain chickens were first seen to be dying in Dominica, and the government contacted ZSL for some technical advice on what the problem was. So we got sent some dead crapo and diagnosed chytridiomycosis, this fungal disease, as the cause of death in those animals. Following on from that, we then jointly raised some money from the UK government's Darwin initiative to develop a conservation project in response to the outbreak of the disease. So we've been working together basically since 2003, and the project started officially in 2004.
Professor Cunningham says further that it's impressive how Dominica's conservation project, which started as a joint effort, is now solely maintained by government with technical support from ZSL. He revealed that the mountain chicken is facing extinction all over the world, and scientists believe that more than 100 species of the amphibians are extinct because of the chytrid fungus. The Mountain Chicken Conservation Project, based in the Botanic Gardens, focuses on breeding versus curing the frog because of the alarming number believed to be remaining on the island.
This disease was catastrophic in that within a couple of years of the first frogs being found dead, over 90% of the population had been killed, and we think probably there's only a few tens of frogs left in the wild. Just a handful of frogs. Now, when you think there were hundreds of thousands of frogs in the wild before this disease struck, that's a massive loss of Dominica's biodiversity, of Dominica's nature. And so what we're trying to do is to find out whether those few remaining frogs are remaining because they're resistant to the disease. And if that's the case, then there's a lot of hope, because if they're protected and they're resistant, then they will hopefully breed and produce resistant offspring, and then the population will recover. Or whether those few remaining frogs are just lucky and haven't yet been exposed to the disease, but that if they do get exposed to the disease, they will die. And if that's the case, then it's really not a very good story.
Professor Cunningham explained that a cure does exist for chytridiomycosis, but poses a challenge to deliver.
The problem there is that it's not just the crapo that gets this infection. So the gnuge, the tink frogs, little tree frogs, they also get infected. And as far as we can tell, they're resistant, so they don't get killed by the infection, but they carry it. So anything from 5 to 40% of the tree frogs are carrying the infection at any one time. So even if we brought in all the remaining mountain chickens, treated them, and then let them free, they're going to get exposed from the disease from the tree frogs. And there are many, many millions of tree frogs on the island, so we can't possibly catch all those and treat them.
Continued fieldwork by the project technicians is expected to clarify the next steps for the conservation of Dominica's mountain chicken. According to Dr. Cunningham, only time will tell.
Amidst congratulatory messages to the new Atkinson Village Council last Friday, Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit pledged his government's continued support to a few projects in that community. The Prime Minister sees the eradication of pit latrines as a must, not only for health and sanitary purposes, but as an issue of pride. As the vision materializes across the country, the Prime Minister committed $150,000 towards the cause in Atkinson.
Those who forgot how they grew up, and now that they have and they forget the backlash, that's better for them. But I believe we have a responsibility as people, as leaders, to help people elevate themselves, to make people feel a sense of pride, make people feel that people care for them, people love them, and irrespective of who you are, you're treated with dignity and respect. And those of us who grew up using the pit latrine know of the sense of pride when we started using a modern washroom. Those who don't have the experience of this, doesn't matter for them. But I had the experience and I know what it is for many people. And I would like for us to work with the council to eradicate pit latrines in Atkinson. And I'm committing an initial $150,000 for that effort in Atkinson solely.
One of the projects started by the past council was the Atkinson Beach Road. Prime Minister Skerrit also pledged government's further assistance to the completion of that road.
And I know you need $50,000 to complete the access to the beach. I'll give you the solemn promise, before the end of the month, the council will have the $50,000 to complete the access to the beach.
Honorable Skerrit also pledged continued support to the tradition of Sewinal in Atkinson.
The government of Dominica, through Dominica's water and sewerage company DOWASCO, has invested millions of dollars in upgrading and maintaining existing water and sewerage systems to provide comfortable and healthy lifestyles for all Dominican citizens. DOWASCO, the sole operating water company on the island, has reported considerable progress on water projects across the country over the past several months. Public Relations Officer for DOWASCO, Edward Regis, assured that DOWASCO is meeting its mandate to provide potable water across the island.
Tell us how DOWASCO is playing its role in bringing out the importance of water today.
Absolutely. DOWASCO is the manager of Dominica's water resource, if you want to put it that way. We have the mandate to ensure that we provide potable water for all of Dominica and also sewage services in the areas that we provided. It is important that we do the work that we do because water is life and everybody uses water. People can survive without love, but no one has ever survived without water, because our bodies, our very bodies, are made up of 70% water, and so we require water to live. And not just us, our pets, our animals, our plants, all living things require water. And so we are happy with the responsibility that we have to provide water, potable water, for all of Dominica. And I emphasize potable water because potable water is treated water, water that is fit for consumption, because in many countries they do not have the luxury of having treated water, and so many people are still dying of diseases such as cholera and so on. We do not really have that in Dominica because DOWASCO takes on its responsibility very seriously to ensure that we have World Health Organization standard water.
Regis highlighted government's investment in providing treated water to all Dominicans.
One of the Millennium Development Goals is to cut in half by next year, by 2015, the number of people who have no access to water. around the world. In Dominica, we have gone much further. We have decided, or the government has decided, to ensure that all Dominicans in all communities have access to water. So we're looking at 100%, and we are well on the way to doing that. There are a few communities in Dominica that have no access to water from the Wasco systems, which means they do not have access to treated water. Grand Savan in Salisbury is one of those communities, and we have already tendered the documents for that project, and we're hoping that that project will get underway very soon. Another such community is Bells, and again, tendering process is already underway for that project to ensure that all communities in Dominica have access to water. There are some communities that have access to water, but that water, the water quality might not be the best, or the supply is not sustained. And you have communities such as Benz and Grand Fond. We have already invested millions to improve and to upgrade those systems. Recently, the community of Shawford did not have water from the Wasco systems, and we provided water for them. So the Wasco is continuing in its program of investment to ensure that we can provide good, sustained potable water to every community around Dominica.
The public relations officer noted that as a result of the depletion of Dominica's water resources, the Wasco is making constant efforts to improve water systems island-wide. On March 22nd, the world celebrated World Water Day, which focused on raising awareness of the interlinkages between water and energy. Regis commented on the symbiotic relationship between these two necessities.
We have been enjoying the benefits of water and energy for many years. A lot of the electricity, at least 30% of the electricity that is generated in Dominica is because of our turbines that Dominica uses. So that is that is one of the ways that comes to mind that we enjoy water and energy. We also have industries that use a lot of water. That is also because of the fact that water and energy are somewhat interdependent. Wherever you have energy, in many instances, you need water. And for water management itself, like when we treat water, wastewater treatment here requires energy. The distillation, the purification of water, all of that requires energy. And so there is a symbiotic relationship between water and energy. And so it is important for us to focus on both because there are many people around the world who have no access to electricity. There are many people around the world who have no access to water. And so this year, the focus on water and energy is very important to bring awareness. We may not be deficient in Dominica, but however, we can join in the effort to ensure that the 2.5 billion people who have little or no access to electricity around the world can get to do so and enjoy it as much as we do in Dominica.
Conversely, about 8% of the global energy generation is used for pumping, treating, and transporting water to various consumers. And that's it for the English segment of National Focus. McPherson St. Luce is next with the Creole highlights.
Allô tout le monde, bienvenue à cette nouvelle en créole. Non moins c'est McPherson St. Luce. Premièrement, gouvernement Dominique signé contrat jeudi pour commencer à bâtir système de l'eau Grand Savane en Baoui. Projet ça là qui a commencé immédiatement car voit moun wansala taper de l'eau potable pour les premières fois. Honorable Reginald Austri, c'est ministère pour management de l'eau.
Grand Savane pas jamais ni l'eau. Et l'eau là yo te ka servi avant, c'est l'eau yo ka mettre en jardin, en watermelon, en concombre pour irrigation. Et ce monde solve là toujours un gros problème avec l'eau. Plusieurs gouvernements déjà passés, ils ont peut-être trouvé l'argent là pour bas Jean Grand Savane l'eau. Parce que aujourd'hui, le gouvernement Roosevelt Skerrit nous trouvé 2.54 millions ici dollars pour nous bâtir un tank qui prend 60 millions de gallons d'eau. Et pour bâtir un chemin qui est 900 pieds en longueur, 9 pieds en largesse. Et pour nous couper pipe pour faire certain que Jean Grand Savane ça tape l'eau. Comme ça, le gouvernement en dernier 5 années qui passent, déjà fait investissement plus que $102 millions pour partir tout mon pays là. Et le monde peut dire parce que pas qu'à faire profit, glo pas ni profit là pour nous faire qualité investissement ça là en glo. Mais investissement ça là c'est en la vie dominicaine. Parce que nous croyons que c'est pas une chimère avec pont, avec police station qui développement. Nous croyons aussi que monde même ni pour développer, nous pour une bonne santé, nous pour un bon glo pour boire, nous pour une éducation. Et nous faire investissement ça là pour ser certain que tout Dominicien ça injouit en meilleure la vie.
En autre nouvelle, membre parlement pour Saint-Joe, Honorable Kelvin Darrow, bien plaisir pour bagaille achievement pour développer communauté touriste à Mero. Un aspect selon Honorable Darrow, c'est plage à Mero. Honorable Darrow a complimenté résident community salam pour chaîne plage là bien propre. Et aussi qu'a bien complimenté Mero Enhancement Committee pour bon travail ailleurs. Il dit malgré on lot d'autres travail mérité, et moi me satisfait ça qui déjà fait. Honorable Darrow fait parole qui c'est développement salam qu'a exhibité support gouvernement Dominique pour faire l'argent available pour plus développement. Il y a un autre aspect selon Honorable Darrow, c'est développement sport touriste et puis développement l'occasion sport en Mero, bagaille qui est avancé pour du tourisme en Mero. En autre nouvelle, le département quarantine qui a visé habitants fruits, musique qui mettait en place, qui a concerné fruit fly. Il y a aussi ni avis pour moun qui a fait commerce à l'autre pays. M. Ryan Ansem, c'est chef département quarantine de la Dominique.
Si fruit a tombé, mago a tombé, nous avons dit pour Marseille, pas quitter à terre. Ça y est, quitter à terre, ça y est fait, il est à l'intérieur, avec il Zéa qui vient en adult fruit fly encore. So, c'est un sanitation system, un integrated system, là nous avons mangé toute maladie en Dominique. Et les gens qui ont fait trade, nous avons dit qu'ils ont venu Dominique, pas ni mener n'importe fruit, pas ni pon on apple, on grape, on plum, mener Dominique. Soit les Latin America, China, Afrique, l'Amérique, font ces places là, ou on y pon on apple, on grape, mettez dans un sac ou mener Dominique. Ou en wis, mener pays, ou ka mettre pays en wis, parce que fruit ça ou ka mener, il s'ani on l'autre fruit fly nous pas ni, il s'ani Mexican fruit fly là, Mediterranean fruit fly là, qui plus dangereux qui West Indian fruit fly là nous ni. So encore tout ça nous ka dit pour quarantine bien important. Sous les mener pièces oui Dominique nous ka do travailler avec plan quarantine nous ke ba ou comment on ça mener parce que nous pas ça à faute pour les pièces d'autres fruit fly à Dominique.
Finalement, inauguration Village Council à Kingston prend place semaine passée et puis Antoine Laville retourné comme chairman. En parole, chairman Laville délivré, il parlait contre plaisir achievement council en ces 3 l'année là qui passait. La ville complimentait gouvernement et puis gouvernement local pour ces achievements là. Projet qui bâtit et puis qui a continué ces projets d'Al and Trizzle, Chimé à Beach Road, projet beautification et puis nettoyer communauté là ensemble et puis Simenal Atkinson. Chairman la ville qui a promettre plus commitment d'autres projets neufs pour communauté là en parmi boss shelter qui aussi qui servent pour d'autres activités communauté là. Il y a l'autre projet pour chairman là c'est agriculture. Mon parlement honorable Ashland Brano bien complimenté conseil neuf là et puis mandé yo tient consultation et puis peuple là pour continuer à mener le développement. Messieurs, mesdames, ça c'est tout pour nouvelle créole pour à présent. Non, moi c'est McPherson. Au revoir.
Do headphones cause hearing loss? Find out next.
Dominica is blessed with an abundance of water, but getting it to your home is an expensive venture. You have a responsibility to conserve water, to use it wisely. Remember the old adage, you never miss the water till the well runs dry. Think water, think life.
Studies show that today 1 in 5 teens has some form of hearing loss, a rate about 40% higher than it was in the 80s and 90s, which many experts believe is due in part to the increased use of headphones.
Most MP3 players today can produce songs up to 120 decibels, equivalent to a sound level at a rock concert. At that level, hearing loss can occur after only about an hour and 15 minutes. Therefore, it's advised that people should not exceed 60% of maximum volume when listening through headphones.
And that's all for this edition of National Focus. We always welcome your suggestions and comments. Drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm or visit our website at news.gov.dm.
Friend us on our Facebook page and be sure to like our GIS Dominica fan page. You can also catch up on past National Focus newscasts on our GIS Dominica YouTube channel.
On behalf of the entire news production team, I'm Mervin.
And I'm Jarna Hector. Thank you for watching.